Lately, I've been playing a lot of Vintage Story. It's a heavily Minecraft-inspired wilderness survival game, but as much as I go absolutely nuts for survival games, and I do, I knew the time would come when the pull to creative mode would be just too strong to ignore. My torches would burn out, my boiled cattail roots would go uneaten, I'd trade my flint axe for a hammer and chisel, and I'd start my next masterpiece. Only one problem. What do I build? Any artist will tell you that an empty canvas is the scariest thing in the world. You could create anything. Having to pick just one idea out of an infinite amount of possibilities can be really, really hard. So I ran a poll. And when you guys showed interest in my idea for the Rainbow Mermaid tide pools, I got straight to work on it. But this was my first time doing a creative mode build in a Minecraft-style game, and 6 hours later, I still felt like I wasn't even close to done. Even though I was itching to continue building, I really needed a smaller build so I could learn how to use the tools I was working with. So I decided to take on one of my smaller build ideas. I'd always wanted to build my own cafe in a game, but all the restaurant sims I could find didn't have the level of customization I wanted, and all the creative games I could find weren't really made to build cafes. Then again, I could probably make a sick cat cafe in Planet Zoo. Well, anyway, I wanted to go all out and make something super cute and charming, like a very cozy cat cafe. Of course, there aren't any cats in Vintage Story, so I had to compromise with rabbits instead, but let's be real, that's hardly a compromise. And you guys showed interest in the idea too, which was the push I needed to finally start on my dream build. I'd somehow managed to grit my teeth and commit to a smaller build size, despite my big ambitions for the build. That meant I'd have to use every block of space wisely, and I knew from the start that there would be at least 3 main sections to furnish: the kitchen, the rabbit area, and the dining area. I wanted the dining area to have plenty of space, but to be small and cozy at the same time, so I was satisfied with only a few tables. I also picked out some blue furniture, since it was feeling really brown in there. Of course, the cafe bakes all of its own bread, so it needed an oven, and a quern for grinding grain into flour. I think some people look at little details like bags or barrels as pretty boring, but they can really help make a build feel more alive. There's also a little book nook. I like to imagine that the bookcases are filled with books about rabbits and rabbit care. I think rabbits are usually thought of as low-maintenance pets, but there's actually a lot to learn about keeping domesticated rabbits happy and healthy. For example, 80% of a domesticated rabbit's diet should be Timothy hay, and ideally a rabbit should have unlimited access to hay. I was super excited when I saw that a hay block was available for me to build with, so I added it to the rabbit enclosure. Now it looks like they've been spilling their food a little bit. It's also important to be aware that most products marketed as being for rabbits in pet stores are actually not rabbit safe. A lot of pellets that are labeled as rabbit pellets have materials that rabbits can't digest, like seeds. Seeds were the only food I could use to fill up the animal food container in the rabbit enclosure, so for roleplay purposes, let's say it's definitely Timothy hay instead. Rabbits also need access to plenty of water. A 5-pound rabbit drinks about as much water as a 20-pound dog. It's also best to give them their water in a bowl rather than a bottle. They are prey animals, so they can be a bit easy to spook. Fortunately, I was able to change the creature AI in creative mode so that the rabbits were very tolerant of players getting close to them. But in real life, if you want to pet a domesticated rabbit, be aware that they can see almost 360 degrees around their head, but they have a blind spot right in front of their noses, so it's better to approach them from above rather than in front. And with the rabbit enclosure finished, and don't worry, they'll get time to free roam as well, I just had to add some finishing touches. The main thing I'd always envisioned having in a cafe build was a clear glass display case for displaying pastries. I knew there had to be a way to make that work in Vintage Story, since it had a really neat chiseling system, which allows you to add and remove tiny blocks from the standard 1x1x1 block, allowing you to create your own shapes. You can even mix materials, so you could have a block that's partially made of glass and partially made of wood. And that's exactly what I needed. But if you line up glass panes next to each other, the light passes through them in a really unattractive way, so I wouldn't be able to make a display that was more than 1 tile wide. Plus, it was really important to me that I'd be able to display bread and other items both on the surface of the counter itself and underneath behind the glass. And you can't place bread on top of a regular block. At all. No matter how hard you try. So I had to move on to the rest of the furnishings. My next cutest idea was a little standing sign that would display the cafe's menu. Of course, I had to put a little rabbit on it too. After that came the hanging sign out front. The text is mostly illegible, but weirdly I think it adds to the charm. Like, with pixel art, half the point of the medium is the stylization, right? Everything was looking great, but something was still missing. It still didn't have the one thing that really brought the vision together in my imagination. A glass display case. Suddenly, an idea hit me, and I picked up my hammer and chisel one more time. Paradoxically, all it took to fully realize my vision for this small build was to go bigger. Using a space that's 2 blocks deep instead of just 1 meant that I could use one of those blocks to place shelves, and shelves are the easiest way to display items like bread. To solve the issue with the glass panes looking weird when lined up next to each other, I just added wooden columns in between them, which had the added benefit of making the whole structure look a lot more stable. And it turned out perfectly. It functions as an actual display for baked bread, and it looks adorable. For that matter, the whole cafe looks adorable. I can't believe the whole thing took me only a few hours to construct and furnish. It turned out exactly as I envisioned it, and it helped me learn a ton of new stuff about building. Speaking of learning, let me give you guys one last rabbit fact. Rabbits love tunnels, but if you set up a play tunnel for your rabbit, make sure it has at least 2 entrances or exits so the rabbit won't feel cornered. Anyway, I'll be wrapping up this video with some more clips of the finished cafe, but before I go, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you had a good time, dropping a like or subscribe really helps me out as a small creator. I'd love to hear in the comments, by the way, if you have any ideas for future builds. Have fun, and see you in the next video.